Hi there, my name is Charlotte, and this podcast is about how to make English classes better using computers and the internet. I'll also touch on how this can help writers as well. So before I begin, if you haven't heard any of my podcasts before, my name is Charlotte. I have experience working in a nursery school from the ages of 0 to 4, and I now work in a primary school as a Year 2 teacher in London. So to begin with, I'm going to talk about technology and how it has been developed to help students with their English. Now, usually when you think about an English class, you imagine students aged maybe between 14 years and over. They're sitting in a class, they're at a desk, they've got a notebook open in front of them, pen and pencil in hand, and they're just furiously scribbling away in their notebooks to take notes from the teacher and to just write down their thoughts and ideas. When you think back to children who go to nursery school, they're like ages between 0 to 5. Nursery teachers focus on communication, first of all, and that includes talking, body language, and being expressive. And then they also support the children to do mark making. Children first learn to talk and form words to communicate what they want to say. Then they're shown how to use the writing tools such as pencils, pens, markers, crayons, chalk, so on. And this is so that they can then leave marks on paper that will then have meaning to the adults, and then they learn how to write and use the marks that they make to communicate with others, basically. After this, the children go to primary school, and they're aged now between 5 and 10, and they're again shown basically the knowledge of how to hold a writing tool. If they didn't learn it at nursery school, they're shown it again, shown how to write their letters again, and then they can be shown how to write more complicated words. They build their vocabulary, and then they learn how to join the words together, form sentences, and then they're supported to show how to write for like all kinds of reasons and purposes. This could be writing a story, a leaflet, a newsletter, an article, a debate, question, a letter, and so on. And then after primary school, they go to secondary school between the ages of 11 to 18. And again, they learn how to write longer things like essays. They learn how to have more debates, how to write assignments, learn how to answer difficult questions, and so on and so on. So every stage of school, they are always developing their English, getting better at it. And not just English, it can be any language, in Spanish maybe, and French. And it happens in every school in the world. This is the basics, what they need to learn, and then they build on it. So one of the main objectives of teaching English to students is to ensure that they know how to write for different purposes. There are lots of ways to write different types of information, and it just depends on what you want others to know. So let's say, for example, that you're going to be putting on a show, a talent show or something, and you want to invite people to come and watch it. Now, before you create anything, you need to think about what it is you want to create, what information you want to share with everyone, how you're going to make it look good so people are interested in the leaflet and they want to come to see the show. And this could then result in you creating a nice big poster. You get lots of pictures in there. You put all the information on it to invite people. You need to include the location, the time, the date of the event so they know when and where to go. In the past, you would have had to know how to read and write to create these types of things. And it used to be that not everyone was able to read and write. It was only for certain people, the richest of the rich. And even though you knew how to read and write, you didn't have to handwrite everything. Then you'd have to make copies by hand, and then you had to put them in public places, especially if you want to make this poster to invite people to come and see your show. If you wanted to write to your friend, you could write a letter by hand. Again, you put pen to paper, you write your letter on your piece of paper, you say, I hope to hear back from you, tell them where to send their reply. You put your letter in an envelope, you put a stamp on it, you put it in the post, in the mail. Then you have to wait for the postman to pick up the letter, and the letter will be sent by maybe truck or plane or sea, wherever it is it needs to go. And then you're left waiting for 3, maybe 4 weeks for a reply, maybe even longer if you have a friend that lived far overseas. And it was a long and slow process. And sometimes you didn't even know if your friend received your message or not. It was only until you got a reply that you knew that they got your letter. If you never got a reply, then you kind of knew that your friend didn't get your message. And it may have been something happened in the post, the message never got to them, didn't get sent to the right place. Or then you probably have to resend another letter and redo it all again. Eventually, A typewriter was created, and this was to help with typing messages, really. After you typed it, it was printed onto paper, and then you didn't have to use a pen. You could just type with the letters on the keyboard, send that letter off. And it just made it a little bit easier rather than having to think about what to write. Instead of making mistakes on the paper, you've typed it up and it looks nice and neat and tidy. Then technology evolved again, and it turned into a computer. And we had software applications were created. And again, these were all developed to help make our lives easier. So we had software like Microsoft Word, which is still used today. Apple, again, their particular software that they've got, notepads, and so on, etc., etc. And these apps were there to help us to type up our work. We could make different things using different fonts, include some pretty images, produce a nice piece of work. Then we could print it further with the printer and then present it to others. Or we could even create a PowerPoint presentation, Microsoft PowerPoint, and still get our message across without having to print anything. So we'd hold a conference, people come, and then you show them your presentation and go through all the slides. And then the printer was also created to make it possible for us to just print off our work on the computer, can make lots of copies at a time, and then we could just put our stuff out a lot quicker than before. So what was the point of all of this development and evolution of technology? Well, the main point was that they were tools for us to help us to communicate with other people and to help us make our lives a lot easier. So we can create, distribute, share, and send information very quickly. Again, to help us with this, we were then given access to the World Wide Web. And soon we're able to send messages to people all over the world, first through emails. So we had websites like www.hotmail.com, www.aol.com, www.yahoo.com, and then Google and their gmail.com came along, and they gave us, we created our own email addresses. Now we could send lots of private messages to our friends, as long as they also had an email address. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to send anything. So you both needed to have your own email address that you could send, and then you can message each other. Then we were given message boards like MSN Messenger, MySpace, Facebook, and we could then have this space, a page for us to share our thoughts, write our feelings, share our pictures and images to show others how we're doing. And again, we could also talk to others. Then it evolved again, and now we're able to send text messages on our mobiles through the use of applications like WhatsApp, Slack, Line, and so on. All you need is a website. Not the website, you need the access to the internet, and you can quickly send a message. And all of these websites and applications, again, have been developed so we can just talk to other people. We can send messages quickly, send it to someone halfway across the world, send it in real time, and you get a reply back as soon as possible. So you can send something within 5 minutes, you get a reply. We didn't have to wait for the postman to come, take our letters, and then wait for 4 weeks. Imagine that. 5 minutes from 4 weeks, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, to just 5 minutes or 1 minute of a reply. Super, super fast. But how does this all help with students in their English classes? Well, let me say, technology just keeps developing. It's developed again. And we now have applications that can actually create our essays and assignments for you. We have applications such as ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Jasper, Anthropic's Claude, and so on. And these are just a few AI tools and chatbots that you can use to create your work. You ask the app, you say, create me a story or a poem. And then you give the chatbot the specifics, what you want in the story, what's the story about, specific content. And it takes a few seconds, mind, and it will write you a full story or a full poem. And it will include all the bits that you've asked it to include. And then you can use this in your projects, and you can pass it off as your own for your homework or your presentations. And this is an amazing piece of software, I have to say. It's a pro of this application. The AI does the work for you. It's amazing. You just need to read through it, tweak it, write your words, change bits, and then it sounds like something that you wrote. It's quick. The app is quick. It's easy for you to do the work. All you needed to do was give it specifics and content as to what you want inside the assignment, and boom, after a few seconds, it's done. Imagine having to do that without the ChatGPT. You'd be sitting there looking at a blank screen for a long time, not sure what to say, not sure what to do, not sure what to write. So yeah, having the ChatGPT, the AIs really does help in this respect. But as with everything, there's also cons for using this AI. All the work is written by AI, not by a human being. And this can sometimes show in the work. Sometimes the sentences can be irrelevant or they not make sense. The sentences could be written in a weird way and sound robotic or sound super smart, and all the words in there just doesn't make sense. And you're like, I don't understand what this says. It can also make you feel like you're less creative because you haven't written it yourself. Could make you feel a little bit redundant because, the computer can just do it. Why am I even trying? You could become a little bit too lazy, rely on it a bit too much to give you the answers. It could also stop you from being imaginative and to think for yourself and to work out how to do things independently. Those of you who are relying on ChatGPT a bit too much, and then when it comes to your turn and you have to do everything yourself and you're not allowed to use ChatGPT, you're not allowed to use a computer and technology, then people find it difficult to cope, or they find it hard to even know where to begin because they haven't put the work and the effort in before. So then how does using computers and the internet help writers? When a writer has an idea for their story, they want to write their story. And in the past, they put their pen to paper and just start writing and scratching away, scribbling, crossing out, editing, whatever they need to do. Nowadays, they can do the same thing on a computer. They just open up Microsoft Word or Apple's Pages. They just start typing away on their computer, their laptop, and it's a bit easier for them to delete, rewrite, try again. And it looks less messy because after you delete something, you don't see it again and you haven't printed it off. So it's all it's all digitally there. You just delete it and rewrite it, which is quite nice. Some people really like that. And then given the project and story you want to write, you can use the internet to research your topics for your book, especially if you have a good idea, just not sure of the specifics, or you just want to make sure you get the details right. Yeah, just go on Google, just search for what you're looking for, and then you can get a proper or an image, or you get proper information that you can then add into your story. It doesn't mean you just take that information and stick it in. Like you wouldn't just search for let's see, where in Barbados can I go on holiday? And it says, go to Tenerife. You say in your story, I went to Tenerife. You got to find out a little bit more about it, and then make it more descriptive, and you got to see the pictures, imagine the weather, what it would be like, so you can really paint the picture in your story. I'm not sure if writers do like to use AIs like ChatGPT to help them to write a book. Usually if a writer wants to write, they want to put their own thoughts and ideas onto a page. And I'm not sure if they would like that something else has done the work for them. But that could be another issue for another day. So if you are a writer, then just leave a comment below. Let us know how you feel about using an AI like ChatGPT to help you write a story. Are you for it? Are you against it? Any reasons why? It's all a good thing to ask. It's quite interesting to see. So moving on from that, along with the internet has been available for a while now, and it helps people to become publishers. It helps to make publishing a bit easier for our writers. There are lots of different websites and different publishing companies out there, and they want to help writers publish their stories. So in the UK, we've got some publishing companies like Hanaz Writers, Harlequin, and Aria, just to name a few, and they want to help support writers to publish their work. In America, there's also the American publishing companies like Simon Schuster, Penguin Random House, Macmillan Publishers, and so on. And there are also lots of competition websites like www.nanowrimo.com. There's www.fanstory.com, www.fusilliwriting.com, www.creativewritinginc.com, and so on, and so many other competition websites that will want to support writers to write short pieces or poetry and then enter them and win competitions. I think without the use of the internet, it can be hard for anyone who wants to be a writer. And even to begin thinking about how to publish their work, get it out to the public, it's hard. Because you need to know people, you need to know connections, you need to know the business. And I think if you have that baseline for someone online, or like Hanaz Writers or Simon Schuster or any of these publishing companies that want to back you, they can get you started and they support you with your work. And nowadays, anyone can try and get their book published, and they can use the internet to help support them. And then they can begin their career as a writer. And I think the internet is actually one of the best places for them to find out how and get started straight away. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. If you have any comments, leave them down below, especially if you are a writer yourself and you have any thoughts on using ChatGPT or AIs like that. Please leave a comment. There's more podcasts coming soon. Thank you so much for listening. And until then, I'll see you. Bye.